Hey kids, looking for a way to affordably access the best and wildest independent extreme horror currently in existence? Godless Horrors is the place to be. Go to www.godless.com to gain access to thousands of extreme horror and splatterpunk books from the genre's best and brightest independent authors. Godless Horrors offers every title in their catalog in a variety of formats to ensure compatibility with your favorite digital reading device. Strapped for cash? No worries. Godless has a fantastic collection of free titles ready for instant download, with other titles in their collection rarely exceeding $3 to $4. Again, go to www.godless.com or download the app and tell them what the fuck you're looking for. Come join the Godless tribe today. Forever delightfully deviant. Forever godless.
So I drink till the night comes another day, and the day's just another little thing in our way. There's something about the way you beat me down that I'll never learn. You're the pint of no return, the pain in my chest, the stain on your dress, the glass in my eye. But this life is a joke and death is the punch. I know.
Mothers of Mayhem!
Oh yeah, we're doing it. Beep, beep, kids! Welcome to Mothers of Mayhem, an extreme horror podcast. Yes! Woo! Woo! This is your weird book mom, Marian, bringing you another very special episode of the show today. If you are already a fan of the podcast, you are aware that in addition to our two mom interviews, I have been hosting a panel discussion series. My panel discussion series, which is called Hidden Voices of Horror. And that has been featuring some of the brightest talents and personalities in modern independent horror. And so far, we've talked with an amazing group of women from the industry, a group of amazing authors who were willing to talk about mental health and its representation within the genre. And recently, we talked about this huge indie horror renaissance that we had over the last couple of years. In mid-June, I'll be spending time with an extraordinary panel of POC authors and reviewers to discuss their views regarding cultural diversity within the genre. But this week, I'm so freaking stoked about this. I can't even. I am joined by this extraordinary group of people from within our very own indie horror alphabet mafia. It is about to get queer up in here. Bitches. Oh, LGBTQIA plus fam represents. Hello, my darlings.
Hi.
Hey, what's up?
Hello.
Oh my God.
Thanks for having us.
Oh my God. Thank you for being here, for making such a terrible decision. I really appreciate it. So, friends, allow me to make some introductions here. First, we have prolific author, co-host of the Written in Red podcast, and overall incredible human being, Rowland Bercy Jr. Hi, Rowland.
Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here.
So happy to have you here.
Aw, thank you.
Up next is my precious friend, Eve Harms. This is the first time I've had a chance to actually video chat with Eve, so I'm dying. Eve is an incredible author, artist, creator of the most wonderful little zine mags that I have ever seen in my life. Before the end of the show, please, you must plug this so people know where to get them. Eve was one of my first supporters and friends on the Tiki Takis, and I just love you to pieces. Thank you so much for being here. Another one of my very first online supporters and friends is my sweetest bean, Dylan Mottaz. Dylan and I, hi baby. Dylan and I originally bonded over his manga reviews, but he quickly ended up falling into the black hole of independent horror reviews after making the mistake of becoming my adopted TikTok child. Another terrible decision on your part, my sweet.
I mean, that's just my life in general.
Well done. Next, we have author and ultimate bad bitch, Angelique Jordonna, who makes me laugh my ass off every damn day on the Book of Face, and who wrote one of the best sapphic indie horror novels I have ever read. This book is called Danny. You all need to read it. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to read Danny. It's amazing. And I love that Facebook tries to put you in FB jail every time you try to post the cover. Angelique. Every fucking time. Finally, we have author Mick Collins. Mick is a fellow Pennsylvanian who recently had the honor of meeting my eldest daughter and proud pan person, Ami, at a recent PA horror convention. Mick, this news has not gone out anywhere yet, and this group is the first to hear it, but Mick also happens to be one of our 3 Swan Dong short story competition winners.
Oh, wow. Yay!
Yeah!
Awesome.
Woohoo!
So we will be getting in touch with you soon to get you scheduled for
Awesome.
a live reading of your brilliant Swan Dong masterpiece.
Brilliant. You read this. Brilliant should not be used in conjunction with that story.
So good.
Oh my
and
God.
an interview. So you all will be seeing Mick again later this season. We will keep you posted, my friend. I am super eager to discuss the representation of the LGBTQIA plus community within the horror genre. I believe this is an incredibly important discussion for us as a community to have. I think if we look back on the history of horror, especially with film, because I think film managed to explore sexuality in much clearer ways than horror lit did during like the 80s and the 90s. I know some of you are not as elderly as some of the others of us. But
attacked.
look, I just attacked myself.
Yeah,
I told you straight up.
Attacked.
My eye doctor was like, girl, it's bifocal time. And I was like, you can go fuck yourself. You don't know nothing. Where'd you get your degree? I am a young lady. All right, friends, let's crack in. So first, and we don't have to go in any particular order, so whoever feels comfortable just jumping in right from the start, you go for it. I would love to talk to you all about how you became aware of indie extreme. I know that's kind of a controversial tag right now, but indie extreme horror, and what your first experience was with independent extreme horror. How did you get into this? How did it pull you in?
I think, I guess I'll go first. Probably some of my earliest ones were Graham Masterton. I don't know if a lot of people read. Unfortunately, I don't think they do, but he's an amazing author. He's so good. Please do yourself a favor and check him out. And then I guess from start reading that, you know how Amazon gives you suggestions for other people, Wrath James White and Edward Lee. So I just kind of gravitated towards them. And as soon as I read a Wrath White and Edward Lee book, I was hooked. That was it. I was done. I was finished. There was like no other place for me to go.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
What about you guys? Tell us.
I started with movies, and I didn't actually get into like reading it until recently. I mean, I've read Clive Barker and stuff, but Poppy Z. Bright, but like real extreme was over the last like 2 years that I kind of delve into that.
I tried to find a way to get a hold of Poppy Z. Bright when that is now his dead name. He goes by Billy now, and he has himself so locked down, like it is impossible to find him and to get a hold of him. He's really found a way to like completely separate himself from who he was at that time when he was writing all of those Poppy Z Bright books, which I find fascinating because as we have this conversation, I think that's a name that's going to pop up over and over and over again because he was very influential in the 90s. Absolutely. And one of our first openly transgender horror authors.
Oh, nice.
I actually just
Yes.
several months ago and got an autographed copy of Exquisite Corpse. So
Oh, nice.
That's amazing.
You tell him if you see him again that Marian's been trying to reach him. He's not going to know what any of that means, but I tell me more, friends. I want to know more.
So, oh, you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I know that you got me into the splatterpunk genre recently because of your TikToks. But I also read a lot of leisure publishing horror in when I was in high school. So they published a lot of like Richard Lehman and Sarah Pinborough was one of my favorites. So I read a lot of their stories when I was in high school, and then just recently got into like the real extreme splatterpunk stuff. So because of Marian.
I'm curious to know what your favorite's been so far.
So, well, I have a few favorites. One of them we're probably going to talk about today is Payback's the Witch.
Oh,
Nice.
look at that!
Who
I
wrote
love it.
that book? I've never
Oh,
seen that
you know,
before.
someone named Roland.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you
Someone
so
named
much.
Roland who's
love it.
actually wearing a Payback is a Witch shirt.
No! That's amazing.
You're gonna have to get
I self-advertise walking down the street.
Dylan, you're
That's
gonna
awesome.
have to get the PayPal info so you can send him some
I
money
will.
and get one shirt.
Aw, that's so nice, Dylan. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is everyone needs to read that book because I read it a while back too, and it was
so
really,
good.
really good. So if you get nothing else from this
it's so
podcast,
good.
read that book.
Oh,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Oh, my ears are getting red.
Nick, tell us about your first adventure in Indie Extreme.
I think I'm kind of a newbie on the indie side because I read Barker and Masterson and kind of the masters but it wasn't actually till recently, like real recently, when my last book Vera Malum was published, that I kind of got into like, oh, this is an actual thing, and I am desperately trying to play catch up because especially off of Godless, there's so many good authors that I keep filling up my tablet and just like I'll get to it on top of doing my own work and everything
Oh my
else.
God.
But
So relatable.
yeah, mentioning like Poppy and all that. Yeah, I mean that's I blame Poppy Bright for, and I used to joke around that she turned me both goth and gay. I mean I'm bi, but close enough.
Oh my gosh. Eve wrote a book called Transmuted, which is part of the Rewind or Die series, which was an exploration of transition from almost I would classify it kind of as bizarro body horror. It's one of the most fantastic books I have read. I bought a copy for my sister. I bought several copies for multiple people. Oh, you're so welcome. It's brilliant. So I'm very curious to know, where did you start in the whole horror genre? What pulled you in?
Well, in terms of the extreme stuff, I guess I've been like in the indie horror scene for a while, but something I can kind of like definitely say, oh, there's the line, is Lucas Mangum, who's a good friend.
Yes.
Nice.
And yeah, his work is really fantastic and extreme. But I kind of got into horror fiction through weird fiction, though I was always a horror fan growing up with film and stuff like that. Something about the dark side has always appealed to me. There's some trauma in my life that has extra sweetness, but I think I've always been attracted to the darkness even before I experienced it myself.
I absolutely am dying for that phrase that you just used. There's some trauma in my life that adds extra sweetness.
I know it's kind of coming at it backwards.
I'm typing that and I'm typing it.
I realize I often tell kind of think of like almost like an origin story set in my head of times I love horror fiction because I do kind of have like something that I feel like solidified me. But then I think I saw a tweet by Annie Rose, who's a horror film critic, really amazing. Everyone should check out. But she was talking about like I don't have I don't need. I've had trauma, but I don't. That's not what attracts me to horror. This is just who I am. This is what I like. And you don't need that. I'm like, you know what? You're right. I kind of forgot about that part.
Yep.
There's the story also. It's like that extra layer. So.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. We've had the iceberg conversation on this show before where humans are icebergs. And a lot of times what we see
representation
is just
and exposure is kind of like a double-edged
behavior
sword,
that's communicating
right?
Meaning that we otherwise
it
do
is
not know how to express.
That we're represented.
And the true meaning is always under the surface of the water. And we all know that with an iceberg, it is way more acreage under the water.
Or probably like in their daily life is even more
surface.
important.
Because it goes right on. It goes right along
this
with
is
that
like
whole
not my
idea.
first gender rodeo. Like 100%. I tried to transition before and
I
detransitioned because
also hear
it was too hard. Like people just the difference between like 2012 and now is huge.
Openly gay,
like
horror authors, and was very vocal and very proud.
The joke at the end of Ace Ventura
and critics at all. He was like, you know what, I am
like
who I
a
am.
Serial killer. Although,
silence.
Although now I'm like writing,
especially
you know what I mean. Like,
it's the books of blood. Like he really pushed a lot of boundaries, and I think he opened the doors for a lot.
Later, like people were like, "Oh, I understand what that
really
is."
Feel more confident
it's
expressing
not like
themselves through the horror genre.
Abject, like it's like a thing that people can be.
So
I was able to.
It's very. I think
not super comfortably, but it gave me the ability to
has become
come out of
much
my
more visible over the last
but now,
few decades,
like,
and we are starting to find
all these attacks,
more and more
right,
support just from the
people,
general public.
Like just legislation all over the country, and there's just like
is
big
your
target on our
opinion,
back,
my friends, regarding
and
cis-het authors
there's also these kind of
writing the lived experiences of queer and trans,
especially for horror writers.
I mean,
right?
I feel like any exposure has value as long as it's appropriate and it's accurate.
People want the
and do you
representation
think there
to
is
be
value
good,
in that
right?
for the queer community?
They don't want a trans character to be a serial killer.
Is it true? I didn't even think about that.
But we're at this point. I'm a horror writer. I want to write about my experience. I want to write human beings, and trans people are human beings, and some of us suck. Like, think about I
love it.
Not me. I'm great.
She's like, I'm perfect. But
think about any of the authors that you read. Like, they're often writing like on Godless. They're often writing about cis white people who are absolute pieces of shit. And I should be able to write an absolute piece of shit who's trans, right?
You're absolutely right.
But people don't like that.
Right.
Some trans people don't want to see that because they're not ready, or they're like, it's very vulnerable early in transition. It's a hard place to be. And you can feel attacked just by seeing something that just makes you feel hurt. Like if you see yourself reflected in a way you don't like, or you have a fear that like this is going to cause more backlash against you, you can lash out against somebody else. So it's really the whole representation thing is really complicated in that sense.
That's a whole different layer that I never even thought of, because we just want the community to be recognized as humans. Like, we're humans, just like everybody else. There's really no difference in our humanity. And you are absolutely right, Eve. There are some humans that fucking suck.
Yep.
And by
I learn about more and
showing
more of them every day.
by showing that there are gay, trans people in the world who exist who are not great people, that in and of itself should be very humanizing. Like that should really just be like, hey, you know what? We're just as human as any of those other asshole serial killers that exist out there. But at the same time, I think you're totally right. Like the community ready to have representation that shows the flaws and vulnerabilities of our humanity?
Yes, we are. We have to be, because then if we're not, then I'll just, why am I on this podcast, right?
Exactly.
Like, the thing is that it's not just that you want to also be able to portray trans people as whole people, but also like, I want to be able to express ugly parts of myself. And the way sometimes we do that is by like an avatar. Like, you know, there'll be like something that's essentially a revenge fantasy. And it's not even really a real person. It's more of a person that's standing in for, you know, the shadow side of you or just a piece of you.
Yeah.
As far as it goes with like cishet authors writing queer and trans folk, I have no problem with that. I hope they do a good job. Where it gets kind of tricky is like, I want publishers to choose story. Like if you're trying to publish a story about a trans person, like find a trans author. You know, we're out there. Don't pick a cis author over a trans author. But an author, like you should be able to write what you want. If you want to write about a trans person, like go for it. I really encourage you to do a good job. Like, you know, like if you're writing like directly from a trans person's perspective and you're not trans, it's going to be tricky to get it right. But if that's what you really want to do, go for it.
As long as you do your research.
I was going to say, that's probably it. It's probably scary for a straight person to write about gay, trans, any of the genders that, or not genders, but sexual orientations that they're not familiar with, because there's a lot of research involved and they don't want to get it wrong and offend somebody by writing something that might not be true, or they might not have enough knowledge about. So I think a lot of people are scared to take that leap and to be bold and to write about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and kind of the flip side of that too is, you know, some of that fear might come from the fact that there's so much they've done wrong by just, you know, either portraying us purposely bad, or kind of half-assing it with, you know, just bad tropes. And so we've got bad representation, or at best half-assed representation.
Sure.
And so maybe, you know, I agree. It comes down to research. Do the research, talk to people. You know, if you're going to do it, fine. You know, a writer should be able to write. Just, if you're going to write outside of your wheelhouse, make sure you're doing it right. You know, get some good beta readers, whatever you need to do. Otherwise, yeah, you may want to do, if you're not willing to do that, maybe do something else.
Yeah, you know, Tim Friesenhahn, I don't know if any of you had a chance to read Oozehead. Timothy Friesenhahn, this was one of his, I think, early releases for this year. But the main character of Oozehead is a young trans woman. And this young woman is basically haunted and tormented by this demonic entity that has become the representation of her horrifyingly abusive stepfather. So it's this huge journey regarding, you know, gender transition, identity, becoming whole, reaching self-actualization while living under this horrific shadow of abuse. And from my perspective, I felt like he did a very respectful job in representing who this character was. But then I heard from other readers who were like, you know what? There were certain characteristics about this character that just didn't feel right to me because of the way their relationship with sex was portrayed. And even though this was someone who was transitioning to female, their feelings towards sex still felt very male, and I had to come back and be like, well, you know, we don't know the inner workings, the inner psyche of somebody as they're struggling with their identity and trying to find a path to transition. I was like, where do we draw the line? Like, how do we have these conversations? It just really was, it was fascinating to me. I could really see where they were coming from, but at the same time, I was like, you know what? I feel like he did his best. He did his best. Let's not tear him apart. Like, he really tried to represent the best he could. And he told me he did months and months of research trying to do the best that he possibly could as far as really building this into a full human. I find the perspective very interesting as we move forward with more cisgendered heterosexual authors, including characters from the LGBT community in their books, because it is just more normal now, right? Like, this is just part of everyday general life nowadays. Thank God.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Angelique, talk about your character of Danny a little bit for me, because Danny is another one of those flawed characters who really shows the humanity of, you know, a lesbian woman in a relationship, and she maybe doesn't get it right all the time.
Just starting out in relationships, though, she's kind of been sheltered overall.
Yeah.
It was kind of with that, I want to say that, you know, there's always something that gets a person to where they're at. So I wanted to show, like, how this character got to where she was and made her do what she did. So that was my whole thing with Danny of, you know, with the serial killers and everything. I think most of them have had some kind of trauma in their life that led them to where they're at. I mean, there's those few that start out just bad in general, but most everyone is led to where they're at.
Oh my God, yeah. They say that Jeffrey Dahmer had a normal childhood. I don't believe that. Something happened. And if it's not some kind of traumatic abuse situation, usually it's too many hard hits to the noggin. That's pretty typically what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mick, you had brought this up just a few minutes ago, but let's talk about stereotypes and tropes.
Okay.
I can think of quite a few. We have the gay best friend. We have the trans sex worker. We have the murderous bisexual best friend who falls in love with one of the other protagonists and just goes bazonks and causes all kinds of chaos. And then, same as our people of color, we have the phenomenon called the bury your gays, where we're like the red shirts of Star Trek. Right?
Yeah.
You either have dark skin or you're gay. You're going down. You're gonna be one of the first to fall. Absolutely. Are there any recent books that y'all have read that you felt transcended the usual tropes and stereotypes?
Can I just comment on something you said?
Yeah.
I like first to fall. That's a good phrase. Bury your gays. I don't love that phrase, because, well, you know, we kill our characters all the time.
Yeah.
And we kill the characters, you know, that are close to the main characters.
Absolutely.
And we write about people like ourselves. So you can't, like, to say, I think the real crux of that is that, like, it's the person is like discarded, you know? It's like they're kind of there for the shock value of their death.
Yes.
It's not that they're being killed. It's that they're not the center of it. One thing I'm
feel
oh,
like
go ahead.
that's something that's come up over and over and over again. And same with our characters who are African American or Hispanic. Like they tend to be the first characters to fall because, and to me, it's a devaluation. Like you said, it's almost like it puts emphasis on the fact that they are just secondary, their background, their scenery. And it just bothers me so much. It bothers me so bad.
Yeah.
I like to highlight books and movies where we've seen that change. Kind of like, well, from the 80s, Freddy's Revenge. Y'all remember Freddy's Revenge?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. That was one of the first movies that was very, very like, it was right there. Like that is a very, oh my God. It's so good. But what do you guys think? Like, have you seen anything recently, read anything recently that you feel is really breaking out of those confines that we've seen for so many decades?
I can't say that I've read anything, but I do know I have a little inside information on something that's coming out that's probably going to transcend and break that stereotype. I can't say what it is, but I'm looking forward to reading it. Yeah, it's a tease. And so it's going to be really exciting. So I can't really say I've read anything that has transcended or broken that stereotype for me.
So I'm currently reading Manhunt.
Oh yeah,
I want to read that.
Oh yeah, that's on my list.
It's very, very good. Gretchen is a friend, and basically she's taking the whole gender apocalypse and like actually considering trans people and like disabled people in it and fat people. Nice. And there's not exactly like a hard cut trope about it, but there's been so many like gender apocalypse things that just kind of brush away just the base concept of biology. Like Absolutely. There's a recently one that I don't think it's even come out yet, and Gretchen did like a review that like completely eviscerated it, but it's like about how everybody with a Y chromosome disappears from the earth and earth becomes like a paradise, but people still want the men back. But it's like that's like a fundamental misunderstanding of biology. You know what I mean? Like I know it's like super, it's not like a horror, it's like a literary fiction or something. So Gretchen actually wrote a book that and hers, the analog is like the amount of testosterone someone has. So there are trans women surviving by keeping their testosterone low. And there are trans men who are dealing with the fact that they cannot have, this thing that sustains them, that makes them who they are in the case of each individual person. So it's really, I'm really enjoying it so far. Another one I've read is also Berserk by Jessica Guest. Yes! That's in the Rinder Dice series. Also, I don't want to say how it subverts it because it's kind of a cool reveal. So, but that's a great book.
That one's also in my TBR. It's been sitting there and it's been like mocking me and calling me. It's like, hey girl,
move it up a little bit.
I will. Oh, I definitely
it's good
will.
With the way you read, you'll like finish it in like 5 minutes. I don't know. You probably just go like that and you'll read it.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know anyone who reads faster
as I
than
used to be, kiddo.
Really? Okay.
Anybody else read anything that they feel like changing the scope?
Yeah, I went looking through all my books and all my like devices to see, and I realized that for the last like year and a half, I've actually been reading just research material for a project that I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but it's nice to dream. And then I'm going, okay, like I said before, I'm trying to play catch up, get back on horror because I missed it and I've been doing all this other stuff. And I realized I have a serious lack of like good queer horror in my library, like at all, or anything that touches on the subject. And now I'm a little sad. So
Well,
if you see,
know
if you guys
what?
recommend anything and you see me scribbling, that's because I'm taking crib notes.
I have
Well,
good news.
oh, I was going to say, while that was pretty much a great little segue there. Why don't we go ahead and recommend some good queer horror? Let's do it. Like, is there anything you would recommend up front where you're like, if you want a good story with great representation, here you go. This is it.
I'm ready.
Yeah, let's do it.
I will say one that I read. It's in one of Rat James White's. I cannot pronounce the name of the book. It's like in French. But his story in there is actually about a trans, if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while. She's a witch, and it's badass. I have the book, so I'm gonna step out of the screen in a second and get it for you guys. But I think that's really good. Yeah.
Yes, please. Anybody else? Well, I would recommend Eve Harm's Transmuted, 100%. I also recommend Angelique Jordana's Dani, Dani. And another one I cannot recommend enough is by Sarah Tantlinger, and it's called To Be Devoured. And it is absolutely gorgeously brutal in its examination of mental illness and love, and how we, in our desire to be loved, can allow it to consume both our own selves and the people that we've focused this love on. It is stunning. It's stunning. And it's a novella, so it is not very long to read. What do you guys have to offer?
This is it. I don't know if you guys have read it.
Nice.
Ooh.
But that's really good. He has a story about a trans witch, and I just thought that was badass.
Obliquator voluptas.
So.
Obliquator voluptas. Who's the who compiled it?
So it's Deathhead Press.
Yes.
Yeah, and including a novelette by James Rathwhite and Monica O'Rourke. So it's really good.
Oh, fantastic.
The whole book is good. Yeah.
Yay, another book to add to my TBR. Fantastic.
Do it.
Thanks, guys. Give me some more that I can add to my list and feel overwhelmed by.
I would go with some Haley Piper. She's pretty good. I read The Worm and His Kings.
Yeah.
That was very good. Then there's Queen of Teeth. She just put out some really good books. So Haley Piper would be my suggestion for people.
Nice.
We get to meet Haley Piper in 2 weeks. I can't wait, you guys.
Ooh.
I'm so excited.
Love
Me
Haley.
and Roland and Angelique are all going to AuthorCon to party our asses off.
Yes.
That's so
And
exciting.
and meet amazing people like Haley Piper and Ross James White. What else?
Corrupted Vessels by Brea Ripley Page.
Corrupted Vessels. What is
yeah.
this about?
It's about kind of this group of trans people that coalesce kind of around almost like a little tiny miniature cult in an abandoned mansion. It's very good. So highly recommend that. It's a novella. You should read it.
Cult?
Yeah,
An
it's like
abandoned mansion. And my brain was like, I'm in.
Yes.
Let's fucking do this.
You should absolutely read it. It's very good.
Oh my God.
I mean, I'm sure many of you have heard of or read Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke.
Oh,
I wanna read that one. Yeah.
Eric LaRocca.
He's a force of nature.
Oh my God, he's gonna be on the show. I think the week after you guys.
Ooh.
So,
nice.
yeah. So that's very exciting. I have so many questions for him. Oh my God.
Number
But yes,
one, why?
Yeah. Why you do this? Why do you like this? Why apple cores and tapeworms? Tell me more.
I had that book spoiled for me, and I was still like devastated by the haunted ending. I was like, I knew it was gonna happen. Like, why can I not sleep right now?
His short story collection, you guys, I don't know if you've had a chance to read The Strange Things We Become, but it is absolutely beautiful. It is amazing, and it's just this, it's very dreamlike in nature, but there's this current, this strong underlying current of dread that it just picks you up at page 1 and it carries you straight through to the end of the collection.
Wow.
And it is, wow, you close that book and you're like, whoo, I need a nap. that was an adventure. But it's amazing. Dylan, do you have any suggestions, my sweet?
So I do actually have a queer horror manga to recommend.
Yes!
Which is, it's like the only one. But it's a really interesting story. So it's called Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Total Eclipse
It's kind of
Eternal Heart.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to Exquisite Corpse in a way, in that it's like it takes place in 2 different timelines, one in the past with a serial killer, and then in the future with a boy who becomes obsessed with the serial killer, and it's kind of like a time-bendy kind of story. It's very dark though. I have to like look up the trigger warnings again because it's not for the faint of heart, but it is very well written. So I really liked it. It's not a happy story, but it's very good.
You said I need to look up the trigger warnings, not for the faint of heart and not a happy story. And again, my brain was like, okay,
So-
yeah.
Another kind of funny thing. So this kind of shows the range. This isn't a horror book at all, but the same person also wrote this comic, which is like a really cute high school romance.
Oh, I love
and it's
range.
like the complete opposite.
I love a good range.
Yeah, it's really crazy that they did that, but yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Angelique, Mick, you guys got any recs? I know, Mick, this was really for your benefit, but you got any ideas?
Well, I know this is a horror podcast, but I'm gonna kind of sidestep a little bit. I'm also one of the co-hosts for the Buy Plus podcast, and if buypluspodcast.com, and of course I can't think of any books right off the top of my head because that would be convenient. But go check it out because we interview a lot of authors, and it's mainly lit fic. We do some sci-fi and fantasy authors. In fact, Road to Juno by Liam Quain. I hope I pronounced that last name right. It's a really good, more sci-fi one, but there's a lot of really good books there to check out if like a non-horror vein, going for like more of the Buy Plus type of community, but even kind of outside of that too, just some excellent stuff. But yeah, horror wise, I need to catch up. I'm so far behind on good horror. The only thing I really know I can recommend is my own, so it's sad. I need to get better at it.
Thinking of like Exquisite Corpse, I really struggled with that book. Did anybody else have a hard time with that book?
Yeah, I haven't been able to finish it.
Yeah, there's something about it
it's
that
a hard read.
It is a very hard, and I can do hard reads, so I don't really feel like it's that the explicit, grotesque violence, the heartlessness of the characters. I feel like that's stuff that we're all used to now. There's just something about the vibe that is just so.
It feels so real. I think that's what it is. It's like you're actually in the mind of a serial killer.
It's very oppressive.
Yeah.
It's very oppressive. And
Mhm.
I struggled with that book so hard, especially
Yeah.
at the beginning. I had a little bit, once I got through the book, I was like, that was freaking brilliant. That was amazing. But at the very beginning, when he like meditates himself into a faux death state,
Oh my
I was
God.
like,
Yeah.
what is this? I'm like, you're gonna tell me this guy who's like totally narcissistic and full of himself and like shallow and superficial has enough spiritual depth to meditate himself into a faux death state? And then that kind of set me off, but then it takes you in such a crazy journey. I just unplugged my light and like spilled my drink. I'm sorry, guys. Go on. The beauty of this podcast is that I can cut any of this out at any time.
It's
But
I
kind of
shouldn't
funny
because
too.
it's way entertaining.
power.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, but I won't.
But
Classic.
Poppy Z. Bride has quite a few good books, though. Not just Exquisite Corpse. I mean, Lost Soul, Drawing
I
Blood,
want to read that one.
Drawing
Yeah.
Blood.
Yeah.
Wormwood was amazing. So, I mean, just a great writer overall.
I agree with you 100%. And I think we can't overlook Anne Rice.
Oh God, yeah.
Yes.
Rest in
Yeah,
peace.
yeah.
I know that Anne had, there's some people consider her to be a little bit problematic, but she really was using a lot of themes in her books that really started to bring the community into the forefront. The whole
Yeah.
relationship between Lestat and Louis and Armand, and even with the Mayfair witches, which is actually coming, I think, to one of the streaming services. I'm very excited about.
Ooh.
Alexandra Daddario, you guys, is starring in the Mayfair Witches series.
Nice.
Hot shit. Not that Dylan or Rowland are really like excited about that. I am.
Hey, I can appreciate it.
Yeah.
You got a pretty face.
I mean,
She's
I
nice
know-
to look at. It's worth it. Before we move on, does anybody else have any others?
Luminous Dead.
Oh, Luminous Dead.
I actually have that right here.
It's like almost a
gonna mention it.
romance, but it's still
It
sci-fi
is.
horror. I loved
Yeah.
it. I was sobbing at the end.
Oh.
Yeah, it was really good.
Oh, that's another one that's in my list. Tell me more about it.
So the reason the reason I bought it is the author on Twitter at some point sold it as angry, traumatized lesbians in a cave in the future, something like that. And I was like, okay, I'm in.
Angry, traumatized future lesbians in a cave.
Yeah, so it's about
Wow.
going into a cave on another planet with and this. Yeah, I don't know. I think that should be enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
so they-
in.
Yeah.
There's spores.
Sold.
There's
Yeah,
also
and then
spores.
they end up getting like trapped there basically, and like they have to like excavate their way out. So it's a survival horror.
Oh, nice.
So it's kind of like The Descent, but with lesbians.
Yes.
Yes.
In the future.
Spores.
Mhm.
That would have made it so much better.
Oh my God. Yes, I'm in.
Yeah, you should definitely read it.
It's really good.
Look at it. Listeners, look it up and let us know.
It's definitely on my bookshelf in the other room.
How would you guys like to see horror authors continue to improve representation of the queer community within their books and stories? Do you have any ideas? Are there any things you yourself as a creative have considered doing to, I don't want to say change representation, but to emphasize the community in your work?
I think that one way to emphasize is, at least for me, and I guess kind of how I go for it and things I've found interesting, is normalize. Like, they just are, whatever flavor of queer they are, and you just move on. There's no explanations, there's no points to make, there's no forced relationships to prove the point. It just is, and you move on. And I think you're seeing a little bit more of it, but I would just like to see a lot more of it. I think we've gotten past the point to where we got to try and convince cishet folks that it's okay. We got a queer character, you're fine. It's just like, it is what it is. We're moving on. We've got more important plot points.
Exactly. Right. And it really, I think, as far as cishet readers, it really goes back to not every book is going to be for everybody. Mm-hmm. I mean, just look at some of our more contentious titles like Womb, Duncan Ralston's Womb. You either love that book because it is fucking wild, or people are like, this is garbage. What the hell is this?
Mick, you were just saying about people just writing gay, bisexual, lesbian, trans character as just a human person. But I think that's kind of scary again for people. I am a gay man, and I'm writing a book, and my next character is a bisexual man. And there's a part in the book where I focus on the gay bathhouse. That is, for some people, scary to write about, because then I think they think they're portraying people or gay people in a negative light, and that's not the case. They're just showing a different facet of the gay existence. I'm terrified to write this, because I'm thinking to myself, when I write this, are people going to assume that might be something that I lived through? Maybe it is. I'm not afraid to say that. I went through that part when I was when I was younger. Yeah. So I think that might be another thing that people are afraid to do, because they think they're going to portray gays, bisexual, trans in a negative light, and they're not. They're just showing that side of the community.
Absolutely. I think that really pulls back to what Eve was talking about earlier, where I think the community is afraid that if we show the flaws and vulnerabilities of these characters as just humans, that it spins them in the wrong light. That we really want everyone to be seen as golden children right now, because we're so worried about making sure that we're accepted and respected.
But at the same time, we're writing horror.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Horror, guys. So be horrific. Show the horrific side of it. It's okay.
Because in the end, they're just humans, right? Yeah. Just shitty humans, just like every other shitty human. You're absolutely right. Did you read the book Bathhouse from last year?
No, I didn't.
I've heard of it.
Oh, there is a book called Bathhouse. It's not a horror novel. It's really more of a psychological thriller, but it's about a gentleman who steps out of his long-term relationship with someone that he meets in a bathhouse situation. That meeting goes terribly, terribly wrong. Almost, and in his mind, he considers it an assault. He's assaulted, but where it goes from there is absolutely batshit crackers.
Wow. Okay.
And just from the cover art is exceptional. It's amazing. 100% recommend. Not horror, psychological thriller, but wild.
Wow. Cool.
Wild. Did any of you read Yes, Daddy?
I say it all the time. I haven't read it though.
So Yes, Daddy highlights the brutal and rampant abuse of young gay teenage and early adult men in Hollywood, and how they are being taken advantage of and used by powerful movie executives or people within the industry who have the financial capabilities to do these sorts of things and to do this abuse and to take people and just remove them from their lives. And it is horrifying. It's horrifying because when you place it on the scales next to the whole Me Too movement and everything that came out about Brian Singer, the X-Men guy, and how he was being accused similarly of abusing young teenage gay men. in Hollywood. It's devastating. It is devastating, but it is exceptional. It's one of those books where you're like, this is amazing. I hate it. I can't stop reading it. This is awful and incredible. 100% recommend. Yes, Daddy. Wow.
Check it out.
Wow. And I think it's important that we see more of these books highlighting the true experience, the abuses that people have suffered. That was a big reason that I really loved Transmuted, Eve, because I am a huge fan of Bizarro. I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, but now I'm excited. I'm a huge fan of Bizarro.
You can talk about a Transmuted as much as you want.
Bizarro is rooted in sociocultural commentary. And Bizarro authors have this way of using surrealism, absurdity, and body horror, as well as sometimes like creature horror, to really highlight in a satirical way the horrible things that are happening in our world. And in Transmuted, this young person is so desperate to become who they want to be that they subject themselves willingly to these procedures that end. There's horrifying results, but continues to keep going and continues with the change because they're just so desperate to be who they want to be, who they feel like they should be. And it also really highlights the abuse, the culture of abuse that you really have to wade through and swim through as you're trying to find your path and just learn to love yourself for who you are inside. And Bizarro, I think, is amazing for being able to tell those stories in ways where people kind of sit back and they're like, oh, I get it. Oh, damn. Absolutely.
It's not just that she's trying to go towards something she wants. It's also that even though the changes, it's not really a spoiler. You kind of guess this is going to happen, are kind of monstrous that she undergoes, but she kind of, there's something very off and she keeps going.
Yeah.
She's not completely sure if maybe this is actually preferable to the way she was before.
Yeah.
There are some aspects about it like, well, this is kind of weird, but maybe it's better. And so it's not just, I don't know, someone said that on Twitter, tweeted at me, and they're talking about how the horror was almost just staying the way she was. That was as much of a horror as changing. And that's, that's a big part of my trans experience.
Absolutely. Or having to revert, being able to move forward in your journey and then feeling compelled to pull back and move backwards before you regain the courage to move forward again and really push forward. Absolutely. Absolutely. I hope we see a lot more of this. Go for it, friend.
Oh, I think going back to what we were kind of talking about portraying our actual lived experiences, and the concept of respectability politics and being concerned about how we'll be seen by, cis het people, whatever the dominant culture is. I think there's also good to keep in mind that not all of us want to assimilate into that culture. And it's not just that we're showing the truth, but maybe we're just showing us, and this is the way we are. It's not just like, oh, I want to show the ugly side. That can be part of it, but it's also like, this is what we do. This is who we are. Do you know what's gross? The nuclear family. That's kind of weird, right? You know what I mean? You can look at it from another perspective, right?
Yeah.
So I think, for me, in terms of the question about like what I want to see from other authors, there's all sorts of things I would hope to see in the genre, but mostly I want to see other authors lifting up, authors who are in a harder situation, than more marginalized, or helping enable people who maybe want to be an author, but they need like some help, or a little like mentorship, or just another author friend, like try to kind of like, if you're getting any, like if you're starting to climb up at all, like try to take people with you. Because I mean, just write what you want. Like if you finish a book at all, like God bless you, like it's hard. So like, I'm not gonna, don't think about it too hard. Just do a good job.
Yeah.
Like write something good and try to bring people with you.
Has anybody else had an experience like Rowland where you've included certain aspects of gay culture, queer culture into your books and it made you a little bit nervous to put it out there?
Yeah, I was terrified to put out my book.
What was it that really frightened you? What were you afraid was going to happen?
I spend a lot of time on Twitter.
That is a trash hellhole.
Oh, come on. You guys are talking about face.
I refuse to do the Twitters.
Okay.
Twitters. I know you don't do the book of face, but Twitter is just like,
at least we're honest about it.
Yes.
But yes,
like
it's true.
Around in a sea of poison.
It is true. It is a venomous place. And there's very commonly there's a lot of trans misogyny on Twitter. I mean, it's all over. But Twitter is designed for dogpiling and fighting. So there's a big thing where like someone will do something unsavory. A lot of times people think a trans woman has transgressed in some way, and it's random, it's kind of just completely random. It's like a lottery. And then, a bunch of people will attack you and say, oh, well, you wrote this wrong, or you didn't represent my experiences correctly, or
because it wasn't about you.
Yeah,
it's
I
not
know,
about
right?
you.
Yeah.
But haters make you famous.
Yep, that's true.
That's true.
That is very true. 100%. Angelique, was there anything about Danny that made you nervous to put it out?
The first few chapters.
Oh yeah. Tell us more.
I pay attention to what people read, and I've realized in the lesbian community, the big thing is like happy ever after romances and stuff. And so I was really nervous to even promote in any of the lesbian groups because it's really hard to find like extreme lesbian horror. Granted, only the first like 2 chapters of mine have anything extreme. It gets a little more leveled after that, but there's not a big reading group for that in the gay community or lesbian community. So I was very nervous to promote with the lesbian groups.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting that over and over again, the thing that keeps coming up is really the fragility of our perspectives as a community regarding, I like how you said it, representation politics. Like how we are afraid that people will respond negatively if we highlight human flaws in these characters, because going back to it over and over and over again, we're looking for respect and to be admired and just to be included as part of society, because we're just here, we're just people. So I think I think it speaks volumes at this point that the thing that keeps coming up is the reaction of the LGBTQIA community to the content, not the response of cis het readers. It's actually the other way. And that fascinates me. That is from a psychological, sociological perspective, that's very interesting to me. Very interesting. Because the community is really still growing and expanding its presence and looking to maintain stability and its political equality. We still need political parity. 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And I think as long as that fight exists, I think respectability politics will probably be a huge thing, huh?
Yeah. Well, and I think we're also still trying to get used to the idea of working together because we've been separated for so long or isolated, feeling isolated, that we're trying to just get along with each other. And so, of course, we're writing for each other, I think, and getting used to the idea of writing for each other more than just like, okay, well, we got to write to this kind of what we perceive a majority audience. Now we can write to each other. We just want to make sure we get it right because we're going to call each other out as soon as we see something stupid too. So, so that, and I was sitting here thinking about listening to everyone writing horror. Like I usually try and put some sort of queer representation in all my stuff, and it's easier for me and I'm more comfortable doing in a horror setting. I think because it has more of a, almost like fantasy where you can build the reality you need to in order to make whatever it is you're doing seem, scary and relatable. Right. I wrote my one and only time I wrote any lit fic, and I think I was just scared shitless doing that, but it was, it was about a bisexual and a gay two friends on their own, and I was more nervous writing that than anything I've ever written, trying to put representation in horror. I just found it very interesting.
I think, there's a lot to be said about writing for each other. I think the focus has been on how do we represent ourselves to the other side, like people who don't know, who don't understand. What is the image that we want presented? But then as members of the horror community, you all have the perspective, like, all humans are shitty. Doesn't matter who they like to bang. And it doesn't matter what's in their pants. They have the potential to be shit people.
Yep.
But
not us though.
Yeah, no,
We're
none of us. We're amazing. But there is still that aspect where, like, well, we need to be represented in a certain way if we're going to be respected and if we're going to get what we want as far as, political things go. So, yeah, that's a perspective I hadn't thought about coming into this, honestly.
One thing to add, though, about that is that coming from someone who didn't really grow up with a lot of queer media in general, you will find a story that you can relate to. So even if you are like worrying about how all of like the internet will like relate to your story, there's still going to be at least one or two people that are going to read it and then say, oh my gosh, that's me in a story. And I think that's really important to remember that, even if it's just a few people, that's really important.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's actually a great segue into the next question that I wanted to ask, which is, what horror books or films, and I think we can take horror out of that. Let's just say, what books or films had the greatest impact on you from the perspective of how it correlated with your personal journey regarding gender identity, sexual orientation. I think we all are fans of horror, so we've always been interested in the morbid and the macabre and the creepy and the spooky. But is there anything that stands out to you as having really hit a note as you were growing up?
Elvira's boobs.
Oh my God, Angelique!
Yes.
100% Elvira.
Elvira.
Holy shit, Elvira. She's a fucking icon.
Yeah.
She is an icon.
For Morticia Adams.
Oh yes.
Oh my God. And not just any Morticia Adams, like the original Morticia. She's gorgeous.
yeah.
Amazing. But Angelica Houston.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
There's Angelica Houston Morticia all the way. I was like, why are you so beautiful?
Yeah,
And-
You know,
right.
something crazy about that too is that she actually hated filming that because of her dress. No, she loved the experience, but the dress was so tight
Oh, I bet.
that
Wow.
she like couldn't like breathe, and she hated it, and she burned the dress afterwards.
Oh my
But
God.
she loved working on it, but that like she didn't like the dress. Like that was something that like it was a hindrance to her. So
I had no
Wow.
idea. And
yeah,
for me,
I think it was a dress. Yeah.
Sigourney Weaver comes up twice. Can you guess? Sigourney Weaver, Ripley
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh.
from Alien, all of the Alien movies. Ripley, hell yeah. But then Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I am the gatekeeper. Are you the keymaster? I am Zool. I was like, okay, I'm in. Let's go. I have the keys. I have them. But then, of course, David Bowie and Labyrinth made sure that I was like, yep. No, I'm Pan. I will take everyone and anything is beautiful. I'm here for it. I'll take it. Why you wear them tight pants in this children's movie? This is Awakenings.
Why not? I say.
Love
He's the
me.
Goblin
Stay
King.
with
What are
me.
you talking
Okay.
about?
Okay, I will.
Goblins
Look at
on.
this dumb bitch. She said no. I will totally step in. I'm good. I'm good. You keep the baby. I'll stay. Let's go for it. What about you guys? Anything that pops out in your mind?
So for me, one of the first horror movies I ever watched when I was 7 years old was The Lost Boys.
Oh,
Oh,
child,
yeah.
tell me
Yeah.
all about it.
Yeah, so my parents let me watch that when I was 7. That was the first like horror movie I ever watched, I think, and I became obsessed with it and would watch it like every other night. And going through my like sexual identity journey, it was like, oh yeah, it was because of Jason Patrick and Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh God,
And
yes.
that whole storyline, and all of them really. But I don't know, it's also just been a comfort movie for me. I always go back to it when I need a movie to watch, just to like turn on. So
that's fantastic.
yeah. Oh, it's also another funny thing. They would have me close my eyes for like the sex scene. And I was very disappointed when I was like old enough to watch it. And it was like literally she does this.
That's
and then
such a good story. I love that.
He's like, really?
I love that.
Seriously? You made me close my eyes for this? You had me all hyped up. What is this shit?
I mean, the boys were always shirtless though, so I don't think it helped parents. Sorry.
Oh man, absolutely. What I'm The Lost Boys was huge. I
love that movie.
Hellraiser 2.
Yes.
I know it's kind of funny,
yeah.
but there's the Cenobites. There's something so ambiguous about the Cenobites, even though they have very specific gender features. There's still something very androgynous about them.
Oh yeah.
I mean, especially you get that demonic tone of voice. So it actually really, they are the antithesis of the biblical angels because there is really no gender there.
Yeah.
Well,
and-
they're
Oh yeah,
they're
go
even
ahead.
more androgynous in the books too.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah.
Right. And
Where's the
Mhm.
book?
Yeah.
rather?
Pinhead really comes from that more female
Oh, yeah.
ish character from Hellbound Heart. So there's a lot of fluidity and ambiguity there as far as their gender goes, because they really are, they're the paradoxical angels.
Mhm.
And even though they're horrifying and terrifying, there was something just so intriguing, and I was just fascinated
Mhm.
by these horrific things, and I don't know why, but Hellraiser 2 is one of my like all-time favorite movies. That's one of my comfort movies.
Comfort
It's
food.
so good, though.
So good.
Something else interesting about that too is like the ending of that movie where you find out that they were actual people that had
Yes.
real lives.
Yes.
And I think the most like chilling thing about that movie for me is, I don't remember which one it was. It might have been the Chatterer is
Mm.
actually a child.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
That is
Really?
like the most
Yeah.
like
Oh, interesting.
horrifying thing about it.
Oh,
And it makes sense because that's, you know, I mean, his teeth are chattering, he's scared.
yes.
So good.
So
Oh my
I
I
god.
don't know. Every time I watch it, I'm just like that part just makes me want to cry.
Hellraiser, the first Hellraiser movie, fantastic. Clive Barker, fucking genius, man. But Hellraiser 2, above and beyond, by far the best film of the entire series.
Oh, yeah.
There's just something about it that just it's remarkable. It is remarkable.
Yeah.
The world
Mhm.
building, the storytelling, the characters, like it's fantastic. If you've never seen that one, you're missing out because it is a masterpiece. Does anybody else have movies or books that really stand out in your memory as kind of like flipping that switch for you, where you were like, hey
For
now?
me, it wasn't books or movies, unfortunately. It was music, which is really
Yeah?
strange.
Oh.
I'm
Tell
sorry.
me.
Like, you know, Madonna, Boy George, it's just Cyndi Lauper. So that
Yes.
was
God,
the,
Cyndi Lauper.
yeah, oh my gosh, she's beautiful. Yeah. So
I
that
love
was
her.
what I related to growing up and where I saw myself and helped me to realize that it's okay to be myself.
Mhm.
I love George Michael so much.
Yes.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I don't talk about that a lot. George Michael and Neil Diamond. They're gods.
Yes.
I love them so much. And Cyndi Lauper,
Yeah.
Yep.
Like
a treasure,
Yes.
a gift
Yes.
from the heavens. Good
Cher.
God.
Don't forget Cher.
Oh,
and
Cher.
Oh yeah.
yeah. But I always listen to the weird stuff. Like there was this group called Cocteau Twins.
Nice. Yeah.
Oh my god, you know Cocteau Twins?
Oh yeah.
I can hug you.
Hell yeah.
Like they were just amazing. But like I said, for me, it was a lot of music, and that kind of led me down that path and let me see that.
Did you
Very
read a
cool.
lot of horror? Did you watch a lot of horror growing up?
Oh, I completely started with horror. My mom was the one, she used to read those like true crime books and leave them laying around. It's her fault. She shouldn't have left them laying around. I wouldn't have picked them up. And she used to love horror. Like every Friday we were at Blockbuster or Peaches in New Orleans. I have to give a shout out to Peaches, picking out movies. And one that will stick with me for the rest of my life is Trilogy of Terror. That little fucking Zuni fetish doll fucked me up with a kid.
The Zuni
Fuck
doll.
me the fuck up. Yes, that and then Don't Be Afraid of the Dark.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
I actually just showed Trilogy of Terror to my oldest a couple months ago.
So good. Karen Black.
Oh, Karen Black. Oh my god, hell yeah.
Amazing scream queen. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. What a great film. Oh,
And then
what a
as I
great
started
film.
reading, I actually started reading like fantasy and like sci-fi, like Pierce Anthony and Simon R. Green. And then I started working at Borders, and that's where I picked up.
Borders.
Yes, I know.
God,
I started getting into Dean Koontz, and again from there it led to Graham Masterton, which is the more extreme stuff, and then so forth and so on. And now I'm fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we love it.
Ah.
You know, it's funny that you bring up Dean Koontz. It's very hard to get a hold of some of these now, but Dean Koontz wrote quite a few horror-esque books for children. My uncle Charlie was the head librarian of the Rarities and Antiquities department at Carnegie Mellon University's library. So he always super into books, interesting books. We got a lot of Maurice Sendak, a lot of things that were much darker, and he would give us all of the Dean Koontz like young adult books like Oddkins.
Interesting. Yeah.
Which is almost like
those.
a version of Puppet Master for children. Like there are some toys in that book that are terrifying. I remember getting it at a pretty young age and only being able to read some of it and having to put it on the shelf and wait a few years to go back to it because it's dark.
What was it called? Oddkins?
Oddkins. The book that I have. Hey, Reen, can you go down to the bookshelf and find the book? It's a hardback book. It says Oddkins. Please. Thank you, darling. Thank you. I'll show you. It's huge. It's
Oh, nice.
huge. But when she brings it up, I'll show you. But yeah, he was kind of my entrance into like the R.L. Stine,
Oh yeah.
the Christopher Pike,
Yes.
the Point books. Dylan, how old are you, child?
I'm 29.
Oh my God, he's a baby.
Yes.
I'm like, what you know about point horror? Were you picking them up at the library?
Oh, I had no.
Did
We had
anybody?
Goosebumps though.
Oh my gosh, Goosebumps.
Oh yeah.
Did anybody get into V.C. Andrews?
A little bit, like, but
Uh,
you know, the basic stuff. What was it? Flowers in the
I
attic?
want
Flowers
to
in the
read
Attic?
some.
That was pretty
Oh
good.
my God, my
Yeah.
sweet Audrina.
I haven't read that one.
Oh my God, you need to read it. Oh my
It's
God.
on my list for sure.
Oh, you have to. It is one of my all-time favorites. It is wild as fuck.
Oh wow.
I probably read it when I was like 11, and I knew in my heart, I was like, I should not have read this. This was not appropriate. What else, you guys? What else?
John Saul was a huge thing for me when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Love John Saul.
I've got quite a few on my shelf from John Saul.
Yeah.
And I never even knew he was gay up until like a couple months ago.
I didn't know he was gay.
Yeah.
No.
That's amazing. Eve, Mick, what about you guys?
I grew up in southern Idaho, so we didn't have literature. We just watched tumbleweeds roll by. No, it wasn't-
Yeah.
We didn't read books.
we didn't read. We,
Sounds very zen.
Yeah.
yeah.
I actually used to live in Boise.
No, I mean it wasn't
So.
that bad. It wasn't that good either. No. I really like. We talked about Nightmare on Elm Street 2, I think a little bit ago. Like that
Yes.
one left me very confused for many years.
Mhm.
Because I really didn't like realize I was bi until I was like 19. So growing up,
Yeah.
I come across like weird stuff and I would be confused and I couldn't figure out why. But being a dumbass, like, oh well, whatever, and then just repress it for a while. But then like I would
That's
watch.
not dumb. That's not dumb. That's very,
Like,
very
that's
normal.
normal.
Oh, yeah,
that's
no,
very normal.
I know you're being self-deprecating, but that's
You know.
people should know it's not stupid at all.
And it is.
It's
it is.
not you.
It is.
It's
Definitely
society
a thing.
trying to tell you that that's not the way you are.
Oh,
Exactly. And that's a thing. That's
Damn
definitely a thing.
them.
But I would like watch like, I mean, it's still my favorite movie, the original Dracula with Bela Lugosi, and I don't know why, but it would leave me like kind of like, there's something going on there. And of course, Bride of Frankenstein, which is of course very queer.
Oh, do you
But like those were
remember?
like when I was growing up, those were like the things that really like, okay, there's a thing here. What is it? I'm not sure. It wasn't until I actually realized and I started reading like, well, we mentioned Poppy Bright, and then I read like Carmilla,
Oh,
and
yeah.
of course
Mhm.
everything Barker ever put out, and crap, I had the title in my head, now it's gone. But
See,
So we'll forget it.
yeah, brains are stupid.
I'm trading mine in.
Me too. Now,
Don't do that. I like both of your brands.
well,
Or
you
just
can
give them
have
to
it.
me, I
you
guess.
can have them. So this is going to be a really deep cut. My sister and I watched a lot of Sci-Fi Channel, and we also rented a lot from Blockbuster and other rental places growing up. This is a really old movie. We loved like Peter Cushing and all of the classic like Hammer horror.
Nice.
Christopher Lee, all of that. House of Long Shadows was one of our all-time favorites. But do you guys remember a movie from the 60s called Frankenstein Created Woman?
Vaguely, yes.
Okay, so this I feel like was the first representation of like trans experience. So Peter Cushing plays Dr. Frankenstein, and he has this like girlfriend wife person, I think, Christina, and she dies, and he's so desperate to bring her back that he comes across this man named Hans who's like about to pass away, and through his experiments he takes Hans commits suicide, and he takes Hans's soul and puts it in Christina's body. And the rest of the movie is basically the spirit of this man, Hans, trying to come to terms with being contained inside a female body that he does not feel comfortable in. And then he tries to use that female body to like take revenge on the people who drove him to suicide. And it's so he tries to use the body to like sexually entice them into their deaths, all the while trying to come to terms with how he controls a body that he obviously knows he doesn't belong in. This was like 1966, 1967.
I've heard of this song.
Crazy.
I cannot recommend it enough. You know, like it's 1960s. It's not anything like hugely wild, but if you watch it now from a 2022 perspective, you'll sit there and you're like, what? Whoa. This is kind of amazing. Amazing. Do y'all remember The Hunger?
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes. That's
Catherine
classic.
Deneuve, David Bowie, Susan Sarandon.
Yeah.
And David Bowie's character was like Catherine Deneuve's character's like longtime vampire companion, and he starts to deteriorate and fade away. So she tries to steal Susan Sarandon as her new, like love and partner for eternity.
I haven't seen that in forever.
I know, right? That was like the early 80s.
Yeah.
For the time.
The soundtrack was amazing too.
Oh my god, so good.
Yeah.
It was wild. My father was an Episcopal priest. I can't believe some of the stuff he let my sister. He rented Amityville Horror for us, and he was like, "Yeah, whatever."
That's amazing.
What about Sleepaway Camp, you guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Classic.
The big surprise at the end. I remember people being like, "Ooh, she was a boy the whole time." I'm like, not really. She was a she, and she was taking her anger out on all of you assholes. Amazing.
Love it.
So having looked at our past, where do you see indie horror heading in the future? And is there a specific way we within the queer community could or should impact its trajectory? What do you think? I have an idea based on the conversations we've had, but I want to hear what you think.
I think people are getting bolder and braver and taking a chance and deciding, okay, I can do this. So I'd like to see more of that, of course. But like we're getting it slowly but surely. So I'm gay. We all are in some form, shape, or fashion. And I'm still learning. So I know for straight people, it's going to be even more of a journey. But people are bold and brave, and they're making those strides towards it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, we are getting bolder, and I think the more community that we're building within the indie horror community, you're getting a more of an attitude of, okay, show me what you got, but make sure you do it right. I'm seeing a little more of that, and I want to see much more of that, because I think in like more mainstream horror, it's less so. And so in the indie, and especially indie extreme, they're like, all right, cool, wow me, just blow my fucking mind. But there's certain things you got to get right, and I think representation is going to be the one that they're really going to be watching for, and I hope to see more of it.
Right.
I'd really like to see more extreme lesbian horror, because it's really hard to find.
I'd really like you to write some more.
There we go.
Lesbian horror, Angelique.
Not to call you out, but
Danny was just an exceptional book, as far as it highlighting mental health plus toxic relationships plus growing up with an abusive caregiver, like how it impacts you as far as the relationships that you enter later in life. Like, please give us more of that. That would be super. She's like, ugh, you people. Don't you know I'm trying to move house? What else? What do you think, guys?
I think I agree with pretty much everything we're saying. Also, just adding more honesty to our stories too, and staying true to yourself. I think that's really important. Like sticking to your guns, even if you're like worried about how someone might respond to it, because no matter what, if you put out something into the world that you believe in, that's all that really should matter. And someone will see that, and it will mean something to someone.
Absolutely. And I really want to focus in on the concept that's been coming up multiple times, is not worrying too much about how the community will respond to the content you put out there. I think it is very important that we continue to be transparent and honest in the characters that are created, and continue to highlight the fact that all humans are flawed and all humans are capable of evil, regardless of color, background, age, sexual orientation, gender identity. It doesn't matter. Like, all of us have the capacity to do horrible things, and that needs to be highlighted. It's like Rowland said, it's horror.
Yep.
It's meant to be horrific.
And you never know like what's gonna either resonate with people or really piss people off. Like,
right.
People get like, in terms of like getting attacked by quote unquote your community, there's some like obvious things that people have done wrong, but sometimes it's just kind of random. It's something small that you wouldn't even think. So like, you might do the most extreme thing and like no one bats an eye, but then you do something else and suddenly people are attacking you. So you just have no idea. And then people will surprise you about how they relate to your story. Like, I've like read reviews, or people have mentioned to me like how they related into a book and to my book in a way that I just didn't expect. Like, it seems like they almost related it to more than I did in some ways, or just more specifically in certain ways, or they'll completely misunderstand it. Like, someone was like, this is a cautionary tale against medical transition. I'm like, no, it's not.
Oh,
it's like
my
not
God.
at all that even close.
Did not understand the assignment.
But okay, that's your interpretation. You just can't control you can't control how people are going to react to your work. You just got to put it out there.
And what one person's going to take away from it, like you said, is totally different than another person, because it's all subjective. Like, if I read it, I might see this. If you read it, you might see that. So we've already been bold, and we've decided to live our lives, live our truths. Why not write it? We did the hard part already, you know. So the rest of it is a cakewalk. As soon as I get past this bathhouse scene.
I can't wait for this bathhouse
I know,
scene.
me too.
We are. You know what? It's just the truth.
You're gonna have to come back next season and talk more about it once it's written. I'm gonna be like, you remember when you were like tormented and not sleeping because of this freaking bathhouse scene?
Yeah. Yes, I'll try.
And you know, Eve, going back to what you were talking about, how sometimes people will read your work and they'll pull something out of it that resonates so deeply with them that you didn't even really see when you were creating it. I think that's just magical.
It
It is absolute magic the way that can happen and the way people interpret your words and the feelings that they can attach to them. It's remarkable. And again, Rowland, you're absolutely right. It's 100% subjective.
Yeah.
Every time people post on like the Books of Horror community or on Instagram or on TikTok, like, what? I need something scary. Nothing scares me. I need a scary book. I'm like, we can't give you a scary book. Scary is different for each and every one of us. It is 100% subjective. It's based on our upbringing, our traumas, our psychological makeup. There's so many things that go into what creates fear inside of us. I can't give you a list of books that are going to scare you.
Yeah.
You have to get in there and figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
One of these days you're going to be reading a book and you're going to be like, oh my God, no, I don't like this. And other times you can read The Slob and you're like, that was gross. Barf. So what are you guys reading now?
What am I?
Reading.
I always like to say nothing.
Oh, I know what I'm reading.
What
I'm
are
actually re-listening to, because I love audiobooks. It's just so much easier for me to listen to them on the way to work. But what is it? The Haunted Forest. Or I can't tell you how many times I've read it or listened to it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's so good. So that's what I'm re-listening to.
So what is it about that book that makes it a comfort book for you? What is it?
I will have to tell you on the panel because I'm on the panel for Scares That Care about your favorite book. So that's why I'm listening to it.
Oh, all right. I've already got that in my calendar.
Yes.
Yes. What else are you guys reading? What are you reading?
So I'm the type of person who reads like 12 books at once.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But right now, mostly, I'm just reading, I'm reading Manhunt. And I know it's like I'll just like read a page from one to the other, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm reading Manhunt. I'm reading Duncan's book Womb.
Oh,
And,
congratulations!
Thank you. I'm enjoying both of them. So those are the two main books I'm reading. I'm reading a bunch of books for research too, and I'm also reading these comics, these zines by Julia Graffair. She's a horror comic artist, and you can only get her work in zine form, and it's really, really good.
How do you spell her last name?
Grofrer. Graffair. She told me that I pronounce her name better than anyone else.
Oh, fantastic!
I hope I didn't like ruin that. Yeah. So Palm Ash, I really enjoyed this one, and there's also this one's Blacklight. This one's really, really good too. So I highly recommend if you're into indie horror comics, which I know there's a lot of crossover, you should check out her work.
Oh, awesome. When you're done with Womb, you have to message me.
Okay, I will.
I think, Dylan, that was the first book from my recommendations that you read. That was the one that sucked you in, and you were like, all right, I guess this is me now.
Yeah, I love that book. It was that one, and then also, oh geez, I can see the cover. The one about the kids in the, oh my gosh, in the museum.
Mayhem at the Museum by Regina Watts.
Yes, that one's so good.
Yes.
I actually lent that to a coworker recently. So.
And what did they say?
They haven't read it yet, so.
Oh, all right. So it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah. I think they'll like it though.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What are you reading right now, my dear?
Right now I'm reading the Book of Cold Cases.
What is this?
By Simone St. James. So this one is a crime thriller about this woman who runs a true crime blog, and it's in her like small town, and there's like a serial killer from the past in her town in the 70s. And so she ends up interviewing this serial killer, well, alleged serial killer. She was like accused of it, but they're not sure. It's a cold case, so it's not closed yet. And it's kind of like so she's kind of like an unreliable narrator too, because you don't really know if she's really who she says she is.
Oh my God.
And then there's also some ghostly elements because the woman who is accused lives in her mansion that was her parents' mansion where her parents were murdered, and she's lived in that house for 40 years, and she keeps hearing the voices of her parents and poundings on the walls, and
wow, this is
it's
a lot
really
to
good.
unpack.
It's a lot. I'm only like 80 pages in, and I'm still like, there's still a lot to this to talk
I just
about.
added it to my list. Oh my God.
It's really good.
Mick, what are you reading?
I'm reading The Butcher's Other Daughter by Peter Caffrey.
Yes,
And
I
that
just
one's
downloaded
like,
that.
That one's good. Like it's got like three different perspectives of, it's like one of those, it's three different perspectives of the same event type of narrative. And it is like, I most of my readings at lunch at work, and it's really hard to go back to work right now because like it's just sucking me in. Usually I read like a couple at a time, but I'm doing some beta reading, so I can't really speak too much on that. But that one's really got me sucked in. I just finished Man, Fuck This House by Brian Asman.
Oh my God, that's been on my list forever.
It's fun. It's a fun read. Like I enjoyed it.
I look at all of his.
Is that a haunted house kind of?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's like usually
Good.
right up my alley. So I saw that and I had to get it. It was good though. It was fun.
All of his titles are intriguing to me. I just, that's the one that really stands out the most because I also really love a good haunted house book.
Yeah.
Did y'all read Kill Creek by Scott Thomas?
I want to. It's in my Kindle.
Not independent. It was mainstream, but 100% recommend. If you like a good haunted house story, and the main characters are 4 authors. So as writers, I think you guys would be like, oh shit. It's a really good book. It's a really, really good book. Angelique, are you reading anything right now?
Right now, no, I'm talking to you guys, but
Just say it, see.
I've been working my way through the Don Texas series.
Oh, so good.
2002 right now.
Eric Butler. Oh my gosh. I love them. I love them. Yeah. He's fantastic. Well,
he's so nice.
Oh my God, he's so nice.
Yeah, such a nice guy.
We're hoping to get him on the show next season. So hopefully he'll say yes. I don't know. After this season, people are going to be like, no, thank you. Well, friends, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. I really appreciate it. If the people would like to contact you, can you please let them know, number one, if you're comfortable with that. Number two, where is the best place for them to find you in order to reach out? Rowland, why don't we start with you?
On Facebook, you could just Rowland Bercy Jr. or you could check my website out, RowlandBercyJr.com. I have Instagram and other stuff, but I don't really use it a lot. So mostly Facebook.
Cool. And make sure you check out Written in Red podcast, which is the Rowland is one of the co-hosts of that with Aaron Beauregard, Daniel Volpe, Carver Pike. And now y'all have started bringing on authors for interviews as well.
Yes, it's a lot of fun.
Yes. You guys are totally wheezing our grindage. And if you keep doing it, we will have an Anchorman style street fight at Scares That Cares. Angelique, whose team are you on?
Oh, I'm sorry. I have to go with my baby daddy, Bercy.
I've been betrayed. I've been betrayed. I've been betrayed.
I guess I have to go to Scares That Care now to
Yes,
be back up.
Eve.
I would
I
love to
need
meet
you.
you.
Eve, I need you to be Rick Tamlin.
That'd be cool.
Eve, where did you get that hand grenade?
Oh wow.
Oh, my dear Dylan is on TikTok. Give the people your handle, Dylan.
So I'm on TikTok as Dynamic Dylan 26, and I think that's my handle for pretty much everything.
I think
I'm on
so.
YouTube too, and Twitter, if you want to find me.
Dylan specializes in manga reviews, which was how I found him and fell in love with him and was able to make him my sweet TikTok child through friendship. So if you
I didn't
love
have
manga,
a choice.
yeah, no, it was forced upon him. If you love manga as well as horror, Dylan is where you want to be. Absolutely. He's also on Facebook, but not very often. Eve! Where is the best place for the people to reach out to you? You've not been on TikTok a lot recently.
No, I love TikTok, but I find making video content very challenging. I'm most active on Twitter, the website for adults. They let us post book covers on there.
Wow.
There are some things on there.
No, I'm just as bitter as you guys are about like Instagram and Facebook and but yeah, so Twitter is Eve Harms Rights. I'm also on Instagram, Eve Harms Rights. I'm not as active on Instagram. And I'm also on TikTok. I did recently post a video, so maybe I'll try to get back to it. That's esoteric _Eden. And I have a friend who I'm collaborating with, and she does a lot of TikTok, so she's like, let's make some videos together. So
what's her handle?
I think it's Mariah Darling 2020.
Yes. I follow Mariah on Instagram.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're collaborating right now.
Awesome.
Can't talk about it because I like to keep work in progress. It's kind of close to my heart, but
I'll find her.
You should definitely follow her. But if you search for Mariah Darling, you'll find her.
Excellent.
And yes, more trans horror coming.
Yay!
Yay! My website is eveharms.com. If you want to like reach out to me for any sort of like businessy kind of thing, use the contact form on the website. That's the best way. You can find my zines on my website at eveharms.com/zines. They're not really horror. They're not extreme anything, but they're fun.
I have them and they're wonderful.
Okay. Yeah. So one of them's like kind of creepy. That's like as far as it gets to being horror. Yeah, those are the best places to find me.
Yay!
Thank you so much for having me on. This has been a lot of fun.
God, it's been wonderful. Mick, you're everywhere. You're everywhere. I feel like we're friends on every platform.
Like a VD, I am everywhere.
Except Twitter, because I don't do the fucking Twitter.
I have a Twitter that I just literally never use anymore. So
I do too.
Like it just gives me hockey updates. That's all I care about.
Go Rangers. I know you're a Flyers fan.
Actually, I'm a Hawks fan.
Oh,
Hawks and
all
Blues,
right.
'cause I'm conflicted.
We're both Pennsylvania traders, so that's good. Yeah. What are your handles and where? Are you comfortable with people reaching out to you?
Yeah, no, please do harass me. It's fine. I'll harass back. On Facebook, I have an author page, but I don't even know if I do anything with it anymore. But Mick Collins on Facebook. On Instagram, I think it's Michael R. Collins or Michael R. Collins author.
Yeah, I think so.
That's mainly just evolved into memes, so that's what you'd expect. Just recently got on TikTok. I've been having fun with that at Mick Wrights. I don't know. Oh, I have a website. Oh yeah, that thing. I have a website, michaelrcollins.wordpress.com. And that's got books and a blog that I really don't do anything with anymore. So there's lots of things I try and then just forget about. My poor neglected social network.
Nick is also working closely with James G. Carlson from Gloomhouse Publishing right
Yes.
now. They put out some amazing books. They're Pennsylvania-based, Central PA-based
This house is
publishing.
Gloomhouse.
Heck
Yeah,
yeah.
James is putting out some really good stuff, and I gotta shout out to him and credit him to kind of revitalizing me, not only for getting hardcore back into horror, but just writing again, because I was serious slump. He picked up Vera Malum, and now, you know, being friends with, you know, so many crazy, insane people, and I'm just excited about not only writing, but just hanging out with all these insane, crazy people. So it's been awesome.
So much fun. He has a skunk and a pig. Like, he's the best friend I could possibly ever have.
Well, the fun thing about James, we live like really close to each other. And so I've been to his house. My wife and I've been to his house to play with the skunk and hang out with the pigs and all that. And it's everything you wish for and more. It really is.
Y'all live like 45 minutes from me. So we're going to have to plan a picnic.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I tried to get you out at one point, but no.
Sorry, I'm a poor bitch. I have no money. Angelique, where can the people find you?
I'm on most social media. So if you go to Google and you just type in Angelique Jordonna, you're going to get several things to pop up, and good luck.
Oh.
Yeah, find her, harass her. She's amazing. Where do y'all like people to buy your books? Are you Amazon or Godless people? Or would you prefer they reach out to you specifically?
All of the above.
Mhm.
Cool. Some people prefer Godless. Some people prefer Amazon, depending on how much stuff they've got there. So I always like to try and highlight that. If you
Yeah,
have
Hope
maybe
to have
like-
stuff
Amazon.
on Godless soon. I think it's a really awesome operation. It's really cool what they're doing.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys get a higher profit margin from your books on Godless, right? Than you do from
Sure.
Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
And I know they're less expensive on Godless, but I would rather see you guys get more money rather than sending Bezos to space.
Right.
He keeps coming back. God damn it.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I'll
Right.
give him all my money as long as that's where he stays. For more information on these remarkable human beings, please refer to today's show notes. Guys, I need your bios. Send me your bios. You can also come join us on the Mothers of Mayhem official Facebook group. I'm pretty sure I think even Eve, who very rarely shows up on Facebook, I think even Eve is in that group at this point. So every single one of us is in the Mothers of Mayhem official Facebook group. You can contact any and all of us there. You can find the links to our various social media accounts in the show bio by visiting my link tree on any of my The Fuck Did I Just Read accounts. As always, you can send your questions, comments, or insults to our email address, momextremepodcast@gmail.com. But don't forget, that's m.o.m.extremepodcast@gmail.com. And that's because Christina tried just made things very complicated. God bless her. So don't forget to send dildos to her because she deserves them. And I swear to God, if I get another picture of fucking Zach Baggins, I am going to tear this town down with my bare hands. That will all become very clear to you all by the end of the season. I will never stop thanking singer-songwriter Amigo the Devil for allowing us to use his song Hungover in Jonestown as our theme. Please go check out his music. You will not regret it. There is trauma in all of our lives that adds some extra sweetness.
Love it.
Celebrate that if you can. And until next time, Go raise some hell children and make your weird book mommies proud. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Great to meet all of you.
You too.
Life is a joke, and death is the punchline. Oh, la, 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 la. Life is a joke, and death is the punchline. Oh, la, 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 la. This life is a joke, and death is the punchline. The punchline.